Welcome to Beyond Bass. I'm going to play lots of weird stuff so we can essentially think outside the box of what this instrument is capable of, because there's lots of things that traditionally people see bass and they go, okay, you play this, you do this kind of thing, and it very much gets put into a pigeonhole of possibilities. And ever since I started playing bass, I always thought there was much more that could be done with it. And I've always found it exciting to try and play, not what everyone else plays, I guess, but it's just trying to find, is there something that hasn't been done before? And that's always been my excitement for picking up the instrument, is trying to work out, is there something I could do with this that I haven't done before, or maybe someone else hasn't done before? So in that aspect, I've always tried to push the technical level to try and find, is there stuff that I haven't heard that I can try and do myself, stealing things from other instruments as well, so we'll talk about a little bit about that. Any questions first off before we go on? No? We already lost someone because maybe they saw me playing 6-string and they're like, yeah, it's not real bass, but that's kind of the point of today, is trying to say there are more possibilities than just with 4 strings and going do 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 do. So first let's do something. I'm going to play around with this. We'll open with this. Let's see what we end up with. Whatever. So that was I only had that a couple of days, so that's a freeze pedal. So I've got the possibility of holding notes on for longer. So it means I'm able to essentially layer things and hold on to them and so on. Going with the aspect of exploration, I didn't try it then, but when I was just plugging in earlier, I realised that if I put this here, I could potentially use my volume control and hold that at the same time. But I didn't want to risk trying that out in front of you guys. But I just literally worked that out now, so that's going to be a potential new sound for me. But I can also obviously just try and use that and that at the same time and play around with that. So that's kind of a soundscape. So that's not necessarily your standard bass playing thing. The other thing, obviously, I'm playing, if you don't know what it is, so this is 6-string bass. So your middle 4 strings. I've got a tune mode. That's your standard 4 strings in the middle there, and then I've also got an extra low string, like you'd have on a 5 string, so that's a low B. But I've also got an extra high string, which if you had a guitar, that would be a B string. But to make it simpler with bass, because we're not playing any chords, generally, kind of open string chords anyway, this is tuned to a C. So everything's tuned from the 5th fret all the way across, and it's the same notes the whole way. So the main thing that's making this different, apart from the 6 strings, is it's fretless. So I don't have any frets on this one as well. So that means I've got the possibility of doing a couple of things that I did in that, which is playing some notes that don't exist. So what I did in there was I played a couple of notes that only exist in the Harmonic Series and not within your standard fretted bass. So the notes I can't actually play on this bass. So for example, if I'm playing, let's do it as an example, if I play the G string, I've got these, I've jumped ahead slightly, but it's fine. So I've got these harmonics on the string. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my finger lightly on the string and then plucking. I'm not pressing down, I'm just touching the string lightly, and I can actually touch that spot several times and it will still ring out. If I touch the string anywhere else, it will stop ringing. What happens if you looked at physics at school? Essentially the string vibrates both sides of those points. So you divide the string up into intervals essentially. So I've got that string, that's if I divide the string exactly into 2. If I divide into 3, I get there and there. And then I can move it up again. That ends up being the same, but then I get the same ones here. And so on. I can kind of keep going up. Up. So what I'm doing is I'm playing some of these notes that don't actually exist in regular played notes. So you assume that everything's kind of divided into 12 and that's how it works. That is how it works, because that's how we forced it to work. If you have a piano and if you have a guitar and everything with frets, you divide everything up equally into 12 parts. And that's what's called equal temperament. So everything's equally spaced. But music doesn't actually work like that. So for example, if I play that note, that's fine. That's the octave. That's the 5th of that string, which is the same as this note. Oh, sorry, this one. Up the octave. That one. And then this is the octave, 2 octaves up, so that's that same note as that one. And then I get this note here, which is the major third of the open string. So that's a G, that's a B. But if I play an actual B, they're slightly out of tune with each other. So which one's correct?
A harmonic.
Well, not if everyone else is playing a B in a chord. That's the thing. So if you've got a piano player playing a B, they're going to play this B.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing the harmonic, technically, it's that B, because that note is perfectly in tune. Because if I play that B, there's a little bit of, if I show you that, kind of goes whoa, slightly. But if I move it down,
Here it beats a little bit.
but if I move it down, so that's flat now, a couple of millimeters flat, it's now completely in tune. Out of tune, but technically correct if you were playing with any other instrument. So I can play notes that don't exist outside of fretless instruments, essentially. Or that also includes kind of trumpets and everything that can kind of bend notes as well. And you'll find if you actually look into classical music, a lot of the time what they're doing is adjusting their thirds and things to make sure that everything's actually in tune around them. There was another note that I played in there, was actually between a sixth and a seventh as well, which is, there's my fifth. There's this note. What's that? Which is there. If you can see my lines, I'm like halfway between those two, but technically that's in tune. And that's actually a barbershop seventh. So if you hear a barbershop singing, barbershop quartet, they go, they go. That's the note they'll actually be singing, because that's in tune with the root, even though it looks like there's actually there's no beating. If I play there, it's really weird. So that's kind of one of the advantages I've got with the fretless instruments. I can actually play microtonally in between things. It also means that I can take things kind of from Arab instruments even. Calm down. There we go. So I'm playing kind of notes in between our regular notes that you can only do on a fretless instrument, and that kind of comes from oud playing, which is a different type of guitar from the Middle East, and so on. Any questions so far?
What does